Well, I will talk very shortly about kind of comparing the three different approaches, right? Mostly more important is that I will compare, these are my disclosures. So lateral procedure has been well published, right, during all these years. And everybody knows indications. You can see them here. What are the indications? These are the cases, indications here. Fractures, tumor, trauma, infections. You can see more and more. And deformity. So lateral procedure in lateral is limiting by posture aspect. Doing the posture aspect in lateral brings some difficulties like multi-level pedicle screws. Even with navigation, if you need to take the facets, if you need the direct compression, if you need the posterior osteotomy, it is really very difficult to do this in the same position. And also, you rely in direct compression that not always is the best. When you place a patient in prone, the advantage is basically what you heard here all the day. The psoas comes back. The plexus also slightly more posterior. We have better access to 1, 2, and 4, 5. We have about 70–75% of spondylolisthesis reduction, and the access anterior and posterior at the same time sometimes is easier. It's a real better procedure because you can work posterior, go anterior, and finish posterior without having to flip the patient. What are the risks? And basically, the literature shows that the complications, bowel and vessel mainly, are very similar between lateral and PTP. When you compare this, bowel and major incidence, you see that the numbers are quite similar. We have seen that when we talk about vascular injuries, the difference is this paper here that is actually a systematic review. OLIF shows 2.5% of vascular incidence. Other than that is a very similar results. We have also heard and published that in OLIF you have neighbors. Usually I say, and we saw the videos from NEW, that you arrive over the vessels, you work on the side of the vessels, and from that you dissect the psoas backwards, which means that you work very close to some neighbors, that one day the neighbor can come and visit you and you have to be prepared. Which I mean that we work close to the nerve, close to the ureter, the bowel, and the sympathetic chain. And it's no surprise that should have a little bit more complications in this area here. We have some papers that we publish on complications on prone lateral. We have one that is a multi-center survey, 1,900 cases between 32 surgeons. And the rate of complications actually is vascular and bowel very low. Still neurological complications not so low. And this is because we included the learning curve cases, different from Juan's paper done years ago that he excluded the first learning curves in this study. But anyway, we did also a study on the retroperitoneal space. I was prepared. I took so long my failed demonstration that I couldn't show you the open aspect of the retroperitoneal space. The distance from the quadratus to the bowel basically is 3 times more space in prone compared to lateral. So this is important about showing the risk that we face is how we avoid that, right? So how we avoid hitting the bowel basically is learning where is the bowel. And you see that we did a study in cadavers that we place guide wires before cutting anything on the direction of the 50-yard line. And you can see here the quadratus and here the retroperitoneal space. And the distance from the quadratus to the bowel was measured in lateral and in prone. And we found that in the prone position, this distance, because of gravity, is much bigger and easier to prevent bowel injuries. Again, controlling where your first dilator goes to the psoas and being able to touch the psoas is very important. Why I'm against OLIF, because I don't like to, first of all, OLIF was developed because Medtronic didn't have a good neuromonitoring, so they decided to go and tear to the psoas, which has been done forever, so for more than 50 years. The deformity surgeons would do this in an open fashion, like a shark bite procedure, and dissecting the psoas backwards. But although they don't use neuromonitoring, they report neurological complications because the plexus is pushed back. So once the plexus moves, the nerve may suffer depending on how close you are, how much you distract the plexus. We learned this and we try to avoid. So the best way to understand the complications and the rate of complications is learning how to avoid that. So we have to think on all these complications, why they use shorter cages, why they end with a cage oblique to the contralateral side frequently. You see the OLIF frequently goes oblique to the contralateral, frequent goes to the, not so frequent, but they go in direction to the contralateral foramen and has more risk to have some other neurological problems contralateral. Anyway, this is short, but I try to be very concise. And any questions?
Any questions for Dr. Pimenta? I just have one, Dr. Pimenta, is that, you know, when you were doing that discectomy, I think for me, it's always like the most important thing about doing lateral is I do think understanding the planes, and, you know, people didn't see it very well, but you're very careful, and you taught me about getting into the retroperitoneum. Can you just talk for 1 second about those moves? Because it was kind of hard to see a little bit.
Usually when they do single incision, you go through 3 layers of muscle, right? Mm-hmm. Oblique external, oblique internal. They have different directions, so you know that you go from one to the other because the fibers change directions. But then you use dilator, retractors until you cross the transverse fascia, and then you see, when you go straight, you see the peritoneum in front of you. Mm-hmm. When I go more posterior, close to the quadratus, I can be aggressive because never the peritoneum will be posterior close to the quadratus. That's why I think this is safer, not only because of that, because during the procedure, the full procedure, I keep my finger inside the retroperitoneal space and I guide everything that goes to the psoas with my left finger. So I I can go around the dilators and the retractor and make sure that I avoid 100% grabbing a bowel or vessels.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, especially if you're just starting lateral, is understanding the relationship of the muscles, the retroperitoneum, and then how you get into it. Because I remember when you taught me, we were doing 2 incisions.
Yes, exactly.
Remember?
Exactly.
And sweeping everything and then guiding it down.
Time, so from the beginning.
Yeah. So I think that's an important point. And I think we saw, Neil was doing it with OLIFs, but I think because you don't have the same, it's a smaller incision. Yeah, that's perfect. I actually love that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the best way to be safe. So you go close to the quadridos, even if it's a Japanese that is super slim, has a small triangle of fat in front of the quadridos.
Omar.
I got a question for you. At the end, when you close your incision, how many layers do you close? Do you try to close every layer or just one big layer?
Yeah. That's a good question. I try to close the only fascia that really matters is a transverse fascia. If you can stitch the transverse fascia, great. But I can tell you it's hard and dangerous. In my hands, I just do 1 stitch on the muscles. I do 2 or 3 stitches, but I don't go as deep as the transverse fascia because it's really a risk that you grab a piece of bowel together.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on Dr. Scullion's comment there. It is quite daunting when you first start doing prone transpsoas because the distance is greater, especially in obese patients. And so your technique, which Dr. Taylor has a modification that's very similar of using the Perk incision, poking through lateral to the TP. But the same thing is that it helped me be very confident because you're looking at this sometimes 180 millimeter passageway and you're saying, well, how sure are you that there's nothing in between? I have to be, 100% sure. And your technique there is very reassuring because the tip of that dilator is never touching anything other than your right index fingertip, your left index fingertip, or the psoas. So it's always at a known spot all the way there. And if you feel...
I'm used to say that people are afraid of big patients. I always say that big patients means more fat, which means also bigger retroperitoneal space, makes it safer. More difficult because of the length of the retractor, but on the other side, it's very easy to reach the retroperitoneal space, and when you go posterior, sometimes the full hand goes under the skin for the first fascia incision, and then you work in direction to your finger again to the psoas muscle. It's always controlling the tip of everything that you drop to the psoas.
And because this is being done blindly, if you feel something soft and squishy between your fingertips, you can always just rub your fingertips together. And if it's fat, it'll just efface.
Yeah, and it doesn't change if you use navigation. Looks safe, but you don't know, right? You don't know what the soft tissue, what's happening. You only know the direction to the bone, the disc, etc. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Luis. And then just to kind of close out, we're going to go to the lab. I'm not sure if Neil's ready yet.